When we were at Bowdoin, Cleta and Terry and I were standing in the parking lot talking, and I said, well, what do you guys think we need to do next week? And Terry asked me some questions that I thought were very pertinent, very good questions in the line of preparedness. For, you know, we hear in the news about food shortages. We hear about banks shutting down in China and factories shutting down in China, and if China shuts down, a lot of stuff here is going to shut down. And so I thought that was a really good idea. And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And as we were talking, is it okay if I share your level of preparedness? They believe in preparing, and she said, you know, I just really need to understand this better. And many people that I talk with, I think this is Cleta's, many people that I talk with, their idea of preparing is buying a lot of canned foods and pasta. And so let's look at this first slide here. This is kind of why we really would do well to steer clear of processed foods for our preparation. And I'm sorry this is a little bit small. I only had today to prepare this, so I was kind of in a hurry. It's high in sugar and salt and very inflammatory fats. These processed fats. What's that?
What is?
Processed foods, canned foods, bagged foods. If it comes in a crinkly bag or a can, it's processed. Okay? So processed foods, processed poison is what I named it. We're going to talk about first, and why I don't believe that that's necessarily the best route to take. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have any of these kinds of foods, but as a general rule, let's go through this list, and I think you'll see they're highly addictive. Kaylin had a talk, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks or so ago on excitotoxins. Many of these processed foods contain flavor enhancers, natural flavors, yeast paste, and all these kinds of things. And these things actually, have you heard the Lay's potato chip logo? What's their logo?
You can't eat just one.
You can't eat just one, and that's basically true. Even Doritos and things like that, you want to stick your head in a bag and just take a big munch, you know, and eat your way out. And so they're very, very addictive, okay? And they don't have a lot of nutrition in them. And that's the next bullet point, very low in nutrition. There's no live enzymes. Our bodies need the enzymes that we get from foods. And that's why I get so excited when it comes to foraging and going out in nature and finding things growing in their native environment, because those plants are happy. They're growing where they want to grow. They're loaded with nutrition, and so it's very, I believe, very beneficial to our health to go out in nature and find our food in the forest or on the prairie. Canned foods also can contain heavy metals. You think about it, if you have canned tomatoes in a regular tin can from the grocery store, canned tomatoes, canned pineapple, those are acidic foods, right? What do you think that's doing to the metal in that can? It's leaching that metal right into your food. And then when you eat that food, you're eating those heavy metals that's in the food. Plastic containers also pull the food in plastic containers pulls the poisons in these plastics. And we talked about this in one of our presentations, one of our first presentations about Love Your Liver, that plastics are hormone disruptors. That's why we see a lot of young men. I have a nephew that has developed breasts, and I believe that it's a toxicity issue. And so, and then there's the HFCS is high fructose corn syrup. Okay, colorings, preservatives. Preservatives in food kill good gut bacteria. So anything in a can, anything acidic in a can particularly, is gonna pull that poison right into the food. That's why I don't believe that these kind of foods are really the best to stock our pantry with, so that in the event of a grid down, a power outage, or with what we know is coming when we're not able to buy or sell, these are really not the best options. These are not nutritious foods, and they may keep a long time and they may sustain life, but they're not going to sustain healthy life. Okay? So we're going to look at some different options tonight that I believe are better options, more healthful options. And in the long run, there may be an initial investment that is a little steep for some of us, but in the long run, it's actually much cheaper. Okay? And what we're talking about is buying these bulk organic foods. Okay? And I have some examples here that I'll show in just a second. Beans, black beans, pinto beans, lentils. If you don't like beans, this is a good time to start retraining your palate. You know, when God took the children of Israel out of Egypt, what was one of the first things that He did? He changed their diet. They were used to the rich diet with the leeks and the garlics and the onions and all these things, and God brought them out of the wilderness and put them on manna, a very simple, very plain diet. And they griped and complained. And that's fairly common when we start talking about diet. We don't like to embrace change, especially in this area. Okay? So I believe we need to start looking at stocking some grains and beans and seeds. How much beans would you need? For an average person, for someone like my size, or my husband, of course, would be on the higher side. I would get more supplies for him than for myself. Obviously, he's almost twice my size. But for an average person, 50 to 60 pounds per person per year is minimum. Okay? And you think about that. You know, most of the beans that I buy in bulk bags are 25-pound bags or 50-pound bags. So you think about a 50-pound bag of bean, that, you know, that actually can go kind of fast if that's mainly what you're eating. Okay, so this is on the low side of minimum. Okay, now we do know that in times, when times get rough, like in the Great Depression, I don't know, probably some of your parents could very well tell you a lot about the Great Depression. People didn't always have a plate full of food. They were happy to have a biscuit for their meal, okay? And so we need, in that regard, even a mindset shift. As a general rule, we are overfed and undernourished as a people, okay? Grains, rice, buckwheat, quinoa. Now you notice I don't have wheat on this list. I personally believe that everyone should be wheat free. Now if you're going to use any type of gluten grain, I believe that it should be, it would be much more healthful to use the ancient grains. Spelt, kamut, einkorn. These have not been hybridized, and our bodies can recognize them as food. The gluten in these grains is not as difficult for the body to deal with. But part of the reason that we see so many people with leaky gut, autoimmune diseases and stuff is because of wheat. Now what's the problem with wheat? We're doing harvest out here right now. It looks like an ant colony out here among the prairie because everybody's right in the middle of harvest. Guys, what do they do 2 weeks before they harvest to those grains? Spray it with Roundup.
Sometimes it's only 9 days.
What's that?
Sometimes it's only 9 days.
9 days.
Said 2 weeks, and the farmers will combine it now within 9 days.
So up to 9 days. Now, do you think that that glyphosate, that Roundup, just dissipates and vanishes off of that grain? No, it doesn't. And glyphosate rips holes in your gut. It is the main driver of leaky gut in our society today. And that's why I say I believe everyone needs to be wheat-free. And if you are going to eat wheat, please make sure it's organic, but preferably use the ancient grains, einkorn, spelt, or kamut. These are the ancient grains that are much more healthful, much more readily digestible by the body. Okay? Another thing that we have to remember, when we buy these bulk beans and grains and things, they're seeds. So in a pinch, you can plant them. In a pinch, you can sprout them. And we're going to talk more about sprouting tonight. Okay? So just remember that. This is quinoa that I got from Costco down here in Bismarck. And this is actually cheaper than Azure Standard at Costco in this bag. Kalen figured it up for me one day. I'm sure he probably doesn't remember, but it was like $1 cheaper or 50 cents a pound cheaper or something like that. But it was significant enough that I bought several of these because I eat a lot of quinoa. I'm gluten-free. And I soak it and sprout it, and then you can make all kind of breads out of it, crackers, muffins, cereal, quinoa and beans. I like quinoa and beans together. Has everybody tasted and tried quinoa? Is everybody familiar with quinoa?
I've never sprouted it.
You've never sprouted it? I've got buckwheat sprouting at home, and I meant to bring that and I forgot that I could show you the little tails that come on that. I love sprouting. Okay, and then another thing that, a lot of people, when they think about grains, they forget the oats have more than one variety. We have rolled oats, we have quick oats, but there's also steel cut oats. Steel cut oats make a very nice cereal, and here's the big clincher, they keep a lot longer than your rolled or quick oats. So steel cut oats is a very good option to consider getting that in bulk because they keep much longer. And they make a nice creamy cereal, but they do have to cook longer than the rolled oats do. It takes a little bit longer for that. Some seeds and nuts also you can buy in bulk, and they keep well if you store them properly. And we are going to talk about storage. Is everybody familiar with Azure Standard? Does everybody know about Azure Standard? Okay, this is a place where you can buy bulk grains and beans. There's an Azure Drop in Bowdoin, and I'm sure those of you who live there, you know that. But Azure Standards, by the way, when all of these food packaging plants were getting burned and airplanes kamikazed and all that stuff, Azure lost one of their warehouses. They were targeted. They have made an impact for those of us who buy bulk organic foods. Okay, so Azure Standard is a very good option. This is their website. You can buy, these are just the small bags. These are like, I think, 5 or 10 pound bags, but you can get everything up to a 2,000 pound tote. Okay, I mean, I don't think we need that much food, but I'll tell you, if a whole bunch of people wanted pinto beans, you could buy that big old thing like that and divvy it up and save a ton of money. No pun intended, that's a ton of food. But anyway, that is a very good option. And another option for the winter, has anybody heard of Misfits? Have you anybody heard of Misfits? Nobody? You have heard of Misfits. Okay. What Misfits is they have produce, but they're expanding into other types of foods now. But it's produce that maybe is misshapen or has a little spot, or it's still good produce, but they can't sell it in the grocery store because it looks funky. It's a tomato with a little growth on it or something. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, that's what Misfits sells. Their produce, by and large, is very good, and they ship it right to your door. To me, that is so worthwhile. I hate going to town. I do not like shopping and going to town and stuff. So for me, the $7.99 that they charge for shipping, which is ridiculously cheap, is well worth it. I cannot buy gas to go to Bismarck with $7.99 on gas. Okay, FedEx delivers, And this might be a really good option as long as the roads are open and there's no blizzard, for you guys to consider having fresh organic produce. If you want to consider Misfits, email me at myclosureforjesus@yahoo.com, and I'll send you a link for $10 off your first order. Okay, if you want to try Misfits, you can skip it, you can cancel it at any time. I do use Misfits when I'm in Alabama. They ship down there. When I come up here, I change my address and they ship it up here. Very convenient, okay? Very convenient. If we're going to go like 2 weeks without being able to go to Bismarck, I just drop in a Misfits order and they bring it to me. Okay? So that's a very good option to consider. And then we need to consider things like garden seeds. How many of y'all save your seeds? Very good. You save them? Good. I figured you would. Some. Okay. I believe that we need to get to the point that we're saving all of our seeds. You know, the farmers used to save their seeds. Now they can't do that. They have to buy their seeds. They're on all these government programs. Mom and I just harvested dill seeds this yesterday or day before. Anyway, yes.
You should know how to store them properly too.
We're going to talk about storage of seeds and grains and all this stuff tonight too. We're going to touch on that. Yes.
Anybody who wants to stop saving, be careful of the hybrids. You won't get what you think you're going to get.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm hard of hearing.
No, anybody who wants to save seeds, don't save them from hybrid plants.
I'm going to touch on that. Thank you so much for bringing that out. I think that may be on this one. Yes. Be sure to purchase heirloom seeds or open pollinated, because if you buy hybrid seeds, it's a very good point, it will grow the plant, but if it makes the fruit or whatever, it's not going to be true to that parent seed, and some of them won't even germinate. So if you're going to save seeds, you need to make sure that and I like to have the organic heirloom seeds so that I know they haven't been sprayed with funky stuff. Okay, and then there's sprouting seeds. Okay, I can literally take 1 tablespoon of these sprouts and turn it into nearly a gallon of food. I can buy a bag of sprouts like this for maybe 12 bucks. That's a lot of food. It's loaded with enzymes. It's easy to digest. It's loaded with vitamins, and when you sprout your legumes, your grains, your seeds and stuff like this, it increases the nutrition by 50 to 200%. So that is huge. That's a lot more nutrition than you're going to get from any can or any bag or anything like that. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about sprouting in just a little bit. So if you don't have a supply of garden seeds and a good supply of sprouting seeds and a good supply of herb seeds, medicinal herbs and culinary herbs, you need to start thinking about getting those ASAP. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed when I go on my favorite seed sites, a lot of the stuff is sold out. Okay, so people are waking up. These are my 2 favorite sites. I like True Leaf Market. I've had very good germination rates on their seeds, and then Johnny's Select Seeds is another company that I highly recommend. They have very good germination rates. Okay, there are a lot of different companies out there, and I'm sure that they have good seeds and stuff, but these, I'm only sharing what I have experience with. And their prices are reasonable, and they have very good germination rates. Yes?
I think it's good to note too, caution, because there may be people that would recommend baker seeds. We've not had very good luck.
I wasn't going to go there, but since he brought it up, Baker Creek heirloom seeds, they share my faith. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. They are Adventist people, and I like to support fellow Adventists, but I cannot support Baker Creek heirloom seeds because they have very poor germination rates, and we are not the only ones who have had problems with that. A lot of people, I used to recommend them because they were Adventists, but now that I've used their products, I can no longer recommend Baker Creek heirloom seeds, yes.
And that's why I brought it up, because some may say,
Yeah, I'm very sorry to say that, but I can't recommend them. So anyway, you were going to ask a question.
Is this Johnny's for garden seeds or sprouting seeds?
Garden seeds, but now if you go back to True Leaf Market, if you notice up here at the top it says seeds, supplies, growing kits, microgreens, and sprouts. So True Leaf Market has very good, in fact I think that's where I got these from, was True Leaf Market. Very good germination rates. Very good germination rates. And we're going to talk more about sprouting in just a little bit. I don't remember though if Johnny's has sprouting seeds. I've never bought sprouting seeds from them except buckwheat. Sprouted buckwheat is, if you've never tried it, you have to try it. It's very good. Very good. Okay. And then you need to have whatever herbs and seasonings. You want to get some of that in bulk. I use a lot of garlic, onion powder, basil, things like that. Of course, you can grow your own and dry it. Okay. And then I like cilantro. It's very good for the liver. And then if you let it go to seed, that becomes coriander. The seeds is coriander, and that tastes somewhat like cinnamon. Okay, and then you need to have salt. Salt is not a bad thing. The kind of salt that is poison is sodium chloride. Standard regular old table salt, that is poison. But if you eat if you use like the Celtic salt, the pink Himalayan salt, that has a lot of minerals in it that's very good for you. Okay, so Celtic, I think Celtic has 90 something or 80 something minerals, and the Himalayan has like 60 or 70 something. So the Celtic does have a few more minerals, but it is more expensive. So when I was trying to figure out how much per household, 10 to 20 pounds of salt, because you can also use it medicinally. Okay, 10 to 20 pounds per year of salt. All right, and then honey. One of the things that I have stocked up on is honey, because honey is good medicine and it's a good sweetener. Okay, bacteria cannot grow in the presence of honey, and honey never spoils. It may turn to solid sugar. Just put it in a double boiler, melt it down again, and you've got honey that flows again. So it's very good. If you have a diabetic foot sore, pack it full of honey. It'll heal. Mix honey and turmeric together. That's an excellent wound dressing for any kind of honey and turmeric. You mix it together and make like a real thick paste. It looks pretty too. It looks like caramel almost. But you can mix that together and pack it in a wound. It will not get infected. Okay?
If it's infected already, would it cure the wound? Would it heal it?
Huh?
If the wound is already infected, would it heal the wound?
It will. It will. The honey will kill the bacteria. Cannot live in the presence of honey. The honey will kill it. Okay? So medicinal herbs, here's where what we've been doing here in learning about the herbs and the plants, we need to learn how to find our food and medicine in nature. You can supplement your diet a lot. Mom knows I'm constantly dragging stuff in. There's always some kind of little seeds drying in her oven downstairs. She's got one of these gas propane stoves down in the basement. And the pilot light in there is just perfect for drying out your herbs and your plants and stuff. You just put it in there on the trays and leave it overnight. It's perfect. I love it. So there's always something down there. We always know to open the oven and look before we turn it on, because I might have something in there. So learn to forage and use what grows in your area. Okay? And these are some medicinal herbs that I think everybody needs to learn to identify in the wild or grow on your property. Okay? Comfrey, aloe, plantain, echinacea. Does anybody have a problem identifying wormwood up here in North Dakota? Everybody knows what wormwood is up here. It's everywhere. Yarrow, basswood. That's what this is. Basswood, linden. This morning, Caitlin and I were walking, and we passed this, and I broke off this limb for the tree, because on a twig this small, you can actually use all of the bark, but if it's a bigger limb or whatever, you can take the inner bark of that, and it's very good medicine. It's good for any of the GI tract or the mucosal linings in the stomach. Very soothing. You can even nibble on the little buds that are on here. That's good medicine.
And it's basswood?
Well, down south we call it basswood. Up here y'all call it linden.
Linden.
Yeah. Okay. Gumweed. Gumweed is coming out. Get you some honey. Get you some gumweed flowers. Warm that honey up to about 150, 160 in a crock pot or something, and make you some cough medicine. If you want to kick her down a notch, go out here and get you some American licorice root. Okay, if you, I can show it to you when we have our picnic and we're here going around stuff. Well, you can dig up the root. It's very soothing to the GI tract. It can affect your blood pressure, so if you have blood pressure issues, you might want to be careful because it can raise your blood pressure a little bit. But if you take these, you can make your own cough medicine.
From the American licorice?
American licorice root and gumweed. Gumweed is that sticky, you pick it and it's sticky like. You may not have seen it yet, but it's...
Is that all those little flowers?
Little yellow flowers, yellow. And and on the bottom of the flower, it looks like little barbs, but they're soft, but they're sticky. They're very sticky. That's gumweed. It's a powerful anti-inflammatory. Very powerful.
I had a toothache last fall when we were in McCluskey. And we were walking out in the pasture, and we saw the gumweed, and I took it and I stuck it and I massaged it on my tooth, and it numbed my tooth. It took the pain. It worked that fast.
Any place where there's a pasture and it gets overgrazed, you get gumweed.
Okay, that's where we found it, in the pasture. And we wanted to spray it. I thought, well, I don't...
Another thing, if earlier in the season, if you need something like that, yarrow root will numb your mouth too if you have mouth pain. So this time of the year, the yarrow flowers are starting to die back and stuff, but we have the gumweed. And I just love how the Lord, provides something in every season like that. And I wanted to touch on something that Cleta shared when she was talking about the toad flax. I have this thought that anywhere something really grows prolifically, it's because God's trying to tell us, you need this. You need this. You think about it. We're fixing to come up, it's almost autumn, okay? And now the gumweed is out, and it's going to be out for about a month or more. And we're coming into the cold and flu season. And God is telling us, make your medicine, get ready. It's coming.
So
Wormwood.
You said gumweed and honey and 100.
You can just use gumweed and honey, and you just warm it, and you can put it in a crock pot like overnight for a while, just to pull out the medicinal properties into the honey, and then you strain out the flowers after that, and you just jar up the honey, label it, and you've got your cough medicine and if you want to kick it up a notch, you can add the American licorice root, okay? Yeah. Isn't it neat?
It's so neat.
It is so neat.
It's so neat to see Mom and Dad not hoe all the purslane out of the garden, and putting in their sandwiches.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Our food dryers are full of...
The other day, I guess it was Tuesday, Mom and I went to the farm to harvest in the garden, and I had to mow a little bit. And I almost had to close my eyes to mow down the yarrow and mow down the motherwort. It was like, it was painful. You never look at your lawn quite the same when you start foraging. Yes. Who had a hand up? Yes.
Yeah, is that gumweed native to North? Of course, I've never seen it till we came here.
It's native to the Northwest.
So it wasn't brought in like from Europe? Or
that I don't know.
I can look it up.
Yeah, it's the Grindelia is the I don't remember the second Latin name, but the Grindelia is the
Yeah, I'll
first.
find it. It's
Yeah.
curious. It's
Yeah,
curious.
let me know. Yes, y'all need to get some comfrey going, and I'm going to show you where to get seeds for that. Okay. I think that's later on in the talk, so I'll come back around to that. Let's talk about some storage options. Y'all know about Mylar bags? Who's used Mylar bags? Okay, so y'all know, that's good. You've used them. With the oxygen absorbers, that's a very good option. You can get the Mylar bags and everything. I took red lentils and quinoa, and I got these little bitty, like pint size Mylar bags, and I put one serving size red lentils and quinoa. I put the salt and the seasonings in there, and we sealed it. And when we go camping, we just rip that open and pour it in our little camp pot, add water, and I tell you, it tastes so much better when it's cooked out over a campfire. I mean, it's amazing how good these things taste when they're cooked like that. So the Mylar bags, you can get them all the way up to, I think, 5-gallon size. I mean, they're ginormous. Yes.
So I just have a suggestion. I was trying to do this with the Mylar bags and use an iron and seal the bags and do all this. That is very difficult. But somebody turned me to a trick that you can take a curling iron and take the Mylar bag in the curling iron and just clip it and run it across.
So you put it in between?
Yep.
And then run it across?
Yeah,
Well,
that's
cool.
right.
I never thought about that.
This was a suggestion from a prepping group that I was watching, a Christian group.
Yeah.
And I had such a nightmare trying to manage everything with I think I was using a broom handle and wrapping the Mylar bag, over and trying to do all that nonsense. And then they said, just try a curling iron and seal it that way. Much easier
Okay.
than
Seems like one of the flat irons would work better.
flat iron.
Yeah, the flat iron.
Yes, a flat iron.
That's a good idea. What we do is get a board
2x4.
and yeah, my husband's a carpenter. He has to be specific. 2x4. Well, he brings me in a 2x4, and we lay it down and run the iron across. Now don't throw those away because you can reuse it. So we try to seal it as close to the edge as we can, and then cut it as close to that seal seam so we can reuse it, and you can just buy more oxygen absorbers. And even if you don't put an oxygen absorber in it, it's still going to help preserve the food that's in there.
The reason why we use the 2x4 because it lifts the bag up 1.5 inches, because when you lay it down on something flat, it wants to spill out. So if you 2x4 sits up high enough where you can lay the bag down, you don't have to worry about it falling out.
Yeah,
It's
it doesn't
got a nice
spill.
flat surface that you can iron on. It works pretty well.
Okay, that's good. And then, of course, there's the 5-gallon buckets. Do you know what the Gamma Seal lids are? The spin-on bucket lids? I'm going to show you a picture in just a minute. And then totes. What we like to do, and it's too heavy for me to handle, I can do the 5-gallon buckets like this full of food. Sometimes I can pick them up if they're not too full, but if we go to the totes, then Kaylin has to move them. But that's a really good way, and I like the totes that are not see-through for this food because it keeps even more light off of it. Okay, and then 1/2-gallon canning jars and a sealer. Have any of y'all seen these, the sealers that you put the hose on? You got one? You've used those? Yeah, those are really handy too. I like those too. But what are we going to do when we don't have electricity? That's what we need to be thinking about. How am I going to do these things when I don't have power? Well, they have these, and I didn't have time to find a picture of it, but I have one. It's called a pump and seal. You get these you poke a hole in the lid, and then you put like a little Band-Aid on it with a rubber flapper on it, and then you put this, it's like a little suction cup over that Band-Aid, and you pump it, and it sucks out all the air. And it's totally manual. There's no electricity needed to run this thing. Here's what the Gamma lid looks like. This is not the best picture, but you'll get the idea. The white under here is the bucket, and then you have this ring that you snap down onto the bucket lid, and then the lid screws into that ring. And I'm telling you, you better mean for that thing to stay on there, because when you put it on there, it's on there. Okay, it's hard to get off. You do have to have one of those bucket wrenches to get these lids off. That's what the underside looks like. And there's inside the lid, the rim of the lid that spins in, there's a gasket. And inside of the rim that snaps down onto your 5-gallon bucket, there's a gasket. So these things seal very nicely. And they're very handy. That you can buy these Gamma Seal bucket lids to fit on any standard 5-gallon bucket. I think you can get these lids for like $7 or $8 a piece, and they're very handy.
There's no getting the oxygen out of the bucket.
No.
This is just to put other.
Yeah, what I have done is I have put like my bag of beans. This is before I started using Mylar and totes and stuff. I would just put a bag of beans in there and spin the lid on tight. And I have had beans keep I've still got some beans that I bought probably 2 years after I married Kaylin. That's 8 years, and they're still fine. Mm-hmm. They're still good. And y'all do know that in the excavations of the pharaohs and stuff that they've done in the pyramids, they have pulled out urns of seeds, grains and stuff from those things, and they sprout. And those things have been in there just in a non-airproof urn for a couple thousand years, and they're still viable. So yes.
I would highly recommend these lids. They're expensive, but to use that wrench to get them tops off all the time, to get in and out, especially if you're a little older and your hands don't work so good, these are so easy to use.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful.
You can open them easier.
Oh, you just spin them.
Yeah, it's just like a screw in. It screws into that rim that snaps onto your bucket, has threads in it, and then the lid has threads, and it just screws in. So you see the threads here, and then there's threads inside the rim here that snaps down onto the bucket. And I tell you, I love these things. Very, very handy. Okay, and then there's sprouting. And does anybody in here sprout?
We do some.
You do some sprouting? Do you have these nice lids with the screen and stuff? Those are so nice. I meant to bring one tonight, and Kaylin asked me if I had needed anything else, and I forgot. But you just, it's kind of like the same thing with the bucket. You can just use a canning lid and get a piece of screen and make your own, but it's really nice to get the pre-made ones because they don't have any sharp edges or anything. They do have the plastic ones that are just all one piece that come in different sizes so that as your sprouts grow, it'll let the hulls out when you rinse. But some of the grains, like this quinoa, is very small. These clover sprouts, red clover, this is very purifying to your blood. These are very small, so it's really good to have a little tiny screen. And that you can find them on Amazon and eBay. Mine has, it's like a plastic thing. It's got little feet on it to keep it up off, when you turn it upside down. And then it's got a screen mesh that fits inside of that. Yeah, I think you can get a pair for like $7 or $8, But they're very handy. So here's just a few benefits of sprouting. Let's run through this, okay? I'm covering this because Terry asked me, how do you have like produce in the winter? Well, this is a very easy, affordable, inexpensive way right here is sprouting, and extremely nutritious. When you sprout, it increases the nutritional and medicinal benefit by 50 to 200%. Okay? They're easier to digest. Seeds, God put a substance on it called phytic acid. That's an anti-nutrient property. It's a little bit difficult for our stomachs to digest and can cause some inflammation. When you soak your seeds, it removes that phytic acid. Seeds are like, okay boys, let's go. It's time to sprout. Let go of that phytic acid and let's sprout. Let's get busy. And so the sprouting removes that inflammatory substance. As I mentioned earlier, I can turn 1 tablespoon of this, and that's probably 3 cups or so of seeds. That's a lot of food. That's probably 15 gallons or more of food right there in this little bag. Okay? It brings the enzymes to life in the seeds whenever you sprout them like that. Extremely high in fiber and very high in protein. I think it was lentils when I was researching. It's like 40% protein when you sprout them. I mean, it's amazing how much, and yet it's low fat. It's very high in fiber, so it's going to be very beneficial to the gut. Very high in antioxidants. Everybody's needing more antioxidants these days. And these seeds are very easy to store. They keep very well. Okay? So this is like, I don't know, 10 trips to Walmart for salad box for 12 bucks, 13 bucks for a little bag of sprout seeds. I highly recommend you get a good supply of sprouting seeds. And I'll give you a whole, there's not just alfalfa sprouts, there's not just mung bean sprouts, there's not just red clover. There is a ton of different sprouts. I mean, even buckwheat. Lentil sprouts are delicious. Sprout your lentils, and then you can take and put them, melt just a little bit of coconut oil, put them in a skillet just for a few minutes with some basil and salt, and saute that just for a few minutes. Don't heat them up too much. That is delicious stuff right there. Okay.
I think
All
you
right.
need to stay here.
By God's grace, we'll be back. We'll be back. So, okay, here's how we sprout. This is the directions. If you want to take a picture of this or email me for the slides, I'll send them to you. You want to soak your seeds overnight in, purified water or whatever. Okay. I say overnight, but it's at least 8 or 10 hours. Okay. Soak them overnight. That's going to kind of wake them up, get that, sprouting process going. And then you're going to drain them and rinse them. Just fill it back up with water and rinse it out. See why you need the screen in there? So you can run that water in there, dump that water out, run the water in. You're rinsing all those anti-nutrient things, keeping those seeds nice and fresh, cleaning off everything, draining out the hulls and stuff. Okay? And then whenever you finish rinsing it, you want to stand it upside down so that if there's any leftover water in there, it can drip out. Okay? You don't want them standing in water or sitting in water. And you want to make sure that you repeat that rinsing process every 6 to 8 hours. So you want to rinse them several times a day. And then harvest lots of nutrient-dense food in just a few days. I mean, you can put this in smoothies, you can put it in your salads, you can make entrees. I am kind of a rookie with sprouting. I just ordered a book on sprouting where the guy makes all kinds of live food. And when you look at the man, he looks like he's late 30s, maybe early 40s, but he's not. He's like in his late 60s, and he looks fantastic. He looks so healthy. And he's been doing these sprouts now for about 12 or 13 years. And it's amazing. He makes entrees and everything. Crackers you can make out of it. It's amazing. Okay, now I'm going to step out of my lane just a little bit. And I'm going to talk about something I don't know anything about. Okay? Microgreens is another option. I have never grown microgreens, but it's something that I would like to try. Okay, but I just wanted to throw this out there as another option for how to have good healthy greens in the winter time, especially here in North Dakota. It's a long winter, so buy lots of seeds. Okay, so the microgreens, you actually grow them like in these trays that they have in the nursery. You grow them in a soil medium instead of just sprouting them, okay? And then you can harvest that, and I think you can reuse the medium once or twice. I don't know for sure. But anyway, these are also loaded with nutrition. It's very easy to do. Even people that live in the city can sprout and grow microgreens. And it is a huge return on your investment. So, you know, if you bought 6 or 8 bags of these, it's going to cost you $100 or a little better. But look at the volume of food that you're getting with this. It's incredible. Plus, let me sweeten that pot just a little bit. A lot of the wild edibles, there's a lot over here on town. And when we have our get-together, I'll take you and show you. Burdock seeds, the little burrs that get stuck in the cow tails and horse manes and stuff. Burdock seeds, the burrs, are full of little seeds. And those can be sprouted. So you can get sprouts for free, okay? If you know what you're looking for. Here's just a partial list of some of the things that you can actually sprout. And you can get such a wide variety of nutrition from these things. Sprouts are so high in vitamin C, magnesium, calcium, all these minerals that everybody needs. Okay? Did somebody say something?
Yeah, you want to take a picture of
Yeah, we
it?
just-
Okay. Y'all can email me too, and I'll send you the slides. Okay, I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. Now, Mom is going to be my helper tonight, and I'm going to test all of y'all for iodine deficiency. So if you don't have a sleeve, roll up your sleeve, bare your forearm. Mom is going to put a little iodine on everybody's forearm. You can rub it in. Don't worry, don't let it get on your clothes because it's tough to get out. But put it on your forearm and rub it in, and we're going to keep an eye on that, okay? If that fades really quickly, you are iodine deficient and you need some iodine. Okay, I already tested Cleta, but you can test her again. Okay? I believe that everyone needs to supplement iodine, and there's several reasons that I say that. Okay? Especially pregnant women need iodine. Studies have shown that children born to women who supplement with iodine during their pregnancy, those children have significantly higher IQs. Significantly higher. Just by adding iodine. Okay? If that iodine on your arm fades fairly quickly, the test says that within 24 hours, if you can't see it, then you need to supplement. But most of y'all are going to fade by the time we leave here tonight. Okay? I believe that everyone needs some iodine. And you can get it in dulse, you can get it in kelp, or you can get it in this Lugol solution, which is what my mom is putting on everyone's forearm. So iodine. Iodine will displace some of the heavy metals from your body. So if you want to detox heavy metals like fluoride, bromine, all these things, iodine will displace that from your body. So it's a very good tool to use for detoxification. Okay? Magnesium. I believe that everyone is magnesium deficient.
Our doctor says everyone needs magnesium.
Yes. And let me tell you how much magnesium you need. Everyone needs 500 milligrams of magnesium per every 100 pounds of body weight every day. I don't think most of us are eating enough leafy greens to get that. Okay? So it's a good idea to supplement. My favorite supplement for magnesium is called Remag. It's a liquid. REMAG. It's a liquid. Remag. Okay? That's my favorite. But you can also get it from your green leafy vegetables, magnesium sulfate, and nettles. Stinging nettles are very high in magnesium. I believe everybody needs vitamin D3 with K2. Okay? Especially up north, when I married Kalen, his vitamin D level was in the teens. Statistics have shown that those who were least affected by COVID had the highest vitamin D levels. Those who tended to have more severe cases of COVID had low vitamin D levels, yes.
Terry had a question.
Okay.
You said, oh, I thought you asked her a question. I heard you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I want to make
She
sure.
forgot
I
it.
did, it was,
100 pounds.
was it 500 milligrams of magnesium for every 100 pounds?
Of body weight. So for me, I weigh approximately 100 pounds, so I need 500 milligrams of magnesium a day. Yes. My husband is almost twice my size, so he needs more. Most people are nowhere near getting nowhere near enough magnesium every day. And that's just to keep from being deficient, okay?
Would you say that how much was that per day, or what did you say we needed?
Per day. 500 milligrams per 100 pounds of body weight per day of magnesium. Watch that orange spot on your arm and notice how fast it fades. If it fades very rapidly, you are very deficient in iodine. Okay? The next, I believe we all need some vitamin C every day. Of course, we can get some of that in our foods. Nettles have 4 times more vitamin C gram per gram than oranges. So start eating your nettles. Grow some nettles on your property. Okay?
We'll see. I don't know if we do or not.
Next is zinc. I believe everybody needs some zinc every day. You can get that from sesame seeds, lentils, quinoa, pumpkin seeds. Okay? And then selenium. Brazil nuts are my favorite source of selenium, but you can also get it from mushrooms. Mushrooms, by the way, are also high in vitamin D. It's very hard to get vitamin D in your diet. If you eat mushrooms, particularly those who are grown out in the wild, we used to forage a lot of mushrooms in Kentucky. The ones that are grown out like that you can find out in nature, those have vitamin D. They have a vitamin D2, but it's a form of D2 that your body can use to convert into the form that it needs. All right, so that's the supplements that everybody, I believe, needs to consider taking every day. And if you're not taking it in supplement form, I believe you need to be looking at these foods to make sure. Okay? All right, now we're going to...
Selenium.
What's that?
How much selenium?
Most people recommend 200 mics a day. I think it's micrograms. That's kind of, you'll read different things in different places. Some people say 50, some people say 25. Most researchers that I study from, physicians and doctors that I study under, it's 200. So, and then zinc, men need more than women. So men would be like 50 milligrams a day, women would be around 30. Now, I am not the RDA, so do your own research. This is for educational purposes only. Okay. All right, now we're going to shift gears again. Minimum tools that I believe everyone needs to have for what we're going into. Mom, what is one of the minimum tools? Whip it, sister.
Whip it out, Mom.
She'll get faster, but...
Oh, good for you.
Yes. I got tired of having to chase my knife down in the garden, so I bought her one. So we believe that, now I have to confess, I am a knifeaholic. So I have, and I don't remember where I first heard this, but when it comes to knives, for around the homestead, or particularly when if we have to flee to the wilderness, 1 is, and 2 is 1. Okay, so I always have a fixed blade and my pocket knife. This is my EDC, or everyday carry. Okay, I cannot tell you how much I've used this little knife, and I've had it for 3 years, I think, this month. and it's still going strong. This is a Boker Kalashnikov Mini with the AUS-8 steel. It's a very good knife, okay? It keeps an edge nicely. Don't buy a cheap knife, okay? Boker, B-O-K-E-R, Kalashnikov, K-A-L-A, Kalashnikov. Don't ask me. I'd have to spell it on paper. It's the Kalashnikov Mini. Now they have a bigger version. Mine has about a 2.5-inch blade. They have one, I think the full-size one has a 3.5-inch blade. So it's not that much bigger, but for me, with my small hands, this is absolutely perfect. It rides deep in the pocket. Now, the only thing that I would change on this if I could is it doesn't have a lock, and I have had it deploy in my pocket. That's not fun because it's got a very pokey tip, okay? And I've gotten poked with it, all right? But Kalen has one in his hip pocket. You want to show your full-size Kalashnikov? Okay, that one does have a lock on it, okay? And we can pass these around. Mom, you want to pass yours and Kalen can pass his so people can look at them?
This is a Boker as well. It's a coyote.
Oh, yeah, I'll just start.
Yeah, that's a Boker coyote, I think. And I believe that we all need to have a fixed blade knife. What do I mean by fixed blade? It simply means it doesn't fold. Now, if I had to be stranded in the wilderness and this was my only knife, this is a Mora, and it's just a basic introductory Mora knife. You can get these for around 20 bucks or less even. I think this is the heavy duty one, so this one may be 20 to 25-ish. This is a 3/4 tang. The tang is how far the actual steel goes down into the handle. It goes about 3/4 of the way. I have a full tang knife, and I can show you what I mean by the tang. If you look here, you can see how the steel runs all the way through the handle. This is a full tang. That makes the knife stronger. Now this is called a PTS knife, yes.
Just be careful with those knives because
Yeah, they're very sharp. This thing right here, this is like a razor blade. It's extremely sharp. I love these things. A friend of mine makes these, Christopher Fisher, ctfisherknives.com. ctfisherknives.com, and he does a really good job on this. This is a mix between a machete, an axe. You know, I don't have real strong hands, so particularly down south where there's a lot of undergrowth, this is a game changer for me because I can really chop a lot of stuff. I can split kindling. I can use it as a draw knife to take the bark off of tree stuff, and I mean, it's just a very useful knife, okay? But you don't have to have one that big, okay? I can pass it around, but I warn you, if you take it out of the sheath, be careful, it's very sharp. This is made for a horizontal mount. You can wear it on your belt like this, which I like. You can wear it in the small of your back like this, but resheathing it is a little tricky if you have it in the back. I prefer to wear it in the front like this and pull it, or you can wear it on your side like that. I like to cross draw and left-handed. Okay, that is handmade by Christopher Fisher. Here is a different, this is also a Mora knife. This is a Mora knife. This is a Mora knife. I encourage you to take these two knives and feel the difference. There's a huge difference. This is a $100 knife. This is a $20 knife. And you can tell the difference. And there's a feature on the end of this that I'll point out in just a minute, okay? Right here, that sticks out. Okay, I can pass these around. I actually have two of the more expensive Moras. This one's Kalen's. We could pass those around. You can look at. And I encourage you to handle these two together and see the difference. Feel the difference in those two knives. There you go. Now pull the that one out and feel the difference.
So much heavier.
It's heavier and it's heavier duty, and that one is full tang. Yes.
So
just like with every tool, we want to learn the application. Each knife has a different application.
Yes.
We need to learn what application they're good for. We don't want to use a little, bulker that you have for chopping wood.
Right.
But also know the maintenance too for a knife, how to care for it. They're tools, you want to take care of them. And the reason why I got these spring loaded knife, you don't have to get that, but again, I went back to the same example with the 5-gallon bucket with the spin lids. Dana's hands don't work good. Many of us that get older, the hands, so it's nice to have something that just pop it out, so you don't have to, work it in and out. That's the reason why we got those spring loaded knives, switchblades, whatever.
Yeah. I also have kind of a medium grade Mora. I think this is also 2/3 or 3/4 tang. This is a Cans ball. This is about a $45 knife. But you'll notice even this is a step up from that green knife. And I wanted to show you, this is my favorite knife sharpener. The safest way to use it is to put it on the edge. I'm not right-handed, so it's a little hard for me to show it like this. And then you can just draw the knife through and sharpen. Just make sure you don't have your leg here. You want to make sure that you observe safety, because even right now it's razor sharp. We keep our knives sharp. This one needs a little cleanup, but it's definitely sharp. This sharpener is made by Stihl, and you can sharpen knives, you can sharpen scissors, and what's the other? Loppers? Hedges. Hedges and loppers. Made by Stihl. I think these are like $15. This is idiot proof. I'm not the best knife sharpener in the world. I mean,
they're $22 now.
They're 20. Okay, everything's gone up now. So when we bought them, I think we bought a bunch of them, and we got them for like $13, but we bought a whole bunch of them, So anyway, we resold them at a camp meeting. So I'll pass that around so you can look at that. Does anybody want to look at this mid-grade Mora fixed blade? Man, you guys are just not knifeaholics. I'd be drooling. And here, I paid $5 for this thing, and I thought I would never use it. I bought it because I felt sorry for the guy. I love this thing.
What do you do with it?
When I go foraging.
You got fighting?
No, I don't fight with it. When I go foraging, like if you're trying to pick apart something, or if you shell nuts, anybody ever shell like pecans, or you can pick out this is a super cool little knife. So I really
like that Diana in a saw action too.
Yeah.
Use them when we go snowmobiling if you're caught in the trees. And
I have to confess, I bought me another knife today.
Another knife today?
I know, it's crazy, but I really like that one. Okay, so here are minimum tools that I believe everyone needs to have, and of course, obviously, I think everybody needs to have a fixed blade and a pocket knife, a clip knife of some sort. You need to get used to carrying these things now, right? Yes.
Because we really probably don't see such a great need for it, but once you start getting out there, you're going to see a great need for knives and different uses for them.
As a lady, I've talked to other ladies before, and I've asked them, do you have a pocket knife? And they look at me like, for what? And I'm like, how do you live without one? I'm serious. My husband can tell you how many times I've had to loan men my pocket knife. When I was a kid, every boy in my high school carried a pocket knife, and then there was me. I had a pocket knife too. So anyway, it just now they can't carry them at school. But when I was a kid,
Right.
they had shotguns in their truck, out in the parking lot, and knives in their pockets. Nobody killed anybody. So that's just the way it was. So, okay, 1 is none, 2 is 1. So I believe everybody needs 2 knives. You need a good way to start a fire. Okay, now I'm going to ask my husband to demonstrate, and I have 2 of these if anybody wants to buy one of these strikers tonight, or we can keep them until we have our outing and practice. The oldest way, who knows what the oldest way, the most primitive way of fire starting?
2 sticks.
2 sticks. Okay, well, let's get a little bit more modern, maybe I should say. Like in the 1800s, what did people carry with them? Flint and steel. Okay, so I'm going to have Kaylin come up. These are some steel strikers that a friend of mine made. I prefer, if you go to junk store and find a like an old file, you know, I like to get the wider ones and break that file into pieces and round off the edges with a grinder, and you can grind off the file, you know, hashes in it, and that makes a fantastic striker. They have enough weight, and it works much better for me than these. Although these work well if you have stronger hands, but I don't. So Kaylin is going to demonstrate how that works, striking the flint and steel.
I'm just going to show you the basics of it, because hopefully we get together someday in the park. We'll show you how to make fires out of tinder, where to look for tinder, how to gather it, all of that information. But this is just basically to show you oh, you got an example, okay, how flint and steel works. Now, we've looked, I don't think we've found flint here.
I haven't.
I haven't either. And so we just started picking up rocks, trying them out. I don't even know what they are, what kind of rock it is, but try to find something that has a sharper edge, you know, even if it's a little thinner. I'm just going to demonstrate these different rocks, so you'll have to experiment here, but in Kentucky there's all kinds of flint, and flint is very good fire starter. But what you do, you get your tinder together and you simply take this, they call it the striker. Now, I don't care for this design either. The file is a little thicker, it's a little easier for me to hold on to. And what you want to do is you want to strike down at the rock. You don't want to hit it, smash it into it, but strike at it, just graze it. Now this takes time, but I don't know if you could see it, the lights. Did you see the spark? Yeah, this one works okay, but when you get to flint, I mean, you've got
Lots of
sparks everywhere. And we'll talk about charred cloth as well. I don't know if any of you know what charred cloth is. Okay, it's a way of you could take materials such as blue jeans, or I guess blue jeans is what I've used, what we've used, and you could put it in a
like an Altoid tin or something.
Altoid tin or something, and punch a little hole in it.
You don't have to punch in those.
As long as it can get
air.
Some way of releasing what's burning. You don't have to punch a hole in it, but a tiny hole is okay. And you put it in a fire, and you leave it in there until you don't see smoke coming out of the canister anymore. Then you know it's done. Then you'll take it out. But you don't open the tin, because if you open the tin, it'll ignite. But you want it just to cool down. So that's going to be charred cloth. So a little spark from just this, just that little spark that you see from there, if that touches that charred, it'll ignite it. And so that you can take that and put it into your tinder, and you can blow on it, and you can start a fire. And so we'll show you those things. I don't think we have charred cloth here. Maybe we can make some.
We can make some.
Sure, maybe we'll make
Anybody got a tin that don't need?
a tin, like an Altoid.
Any kind of tin.
You don't really
any
want
small.
to get too much bigger than this, really.
A tiny one.
Probably a little too
That might be a
small.
little small.
But if you find a tin,
Show them these. Try the
okay,
other
we'll try
rocks.
the different rocks. If you have a tin, bring it. And I'm thinking that if we would get together, I guess the 11th, I'm thinking of our schedule would work for us. In the afternoon, Sunday. I know that there are those who want to go to church. We want to give you that time to do that. Well, this one does spark
9/11, huh?
pretty good.
9/11.
Oh, yeah.
And so it
Now-
takes practice like anything, just to strike but not hit it too hard, but just graze it.
We're going to talk about what's on your table next, and it's the only natural plant fiber that if you rough it up, that will catch a spark on its own without the need of char cloth. Okay, it's one of the few, I should say, as far as plant fibers. There's very few plant fibers that you can catch a spark on.
Is that the same thing that's on our table?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So everybody, now this is not, I was hoping Kalen would bring his water bottle. I believe that we need a single wall stainless steel water bottle. Okay, and the reason for that is because if you are in a situation where you have to leave your home or whatever, you can boil water in that, you can cook in it, you can do a lot of things with a single wall stainless steel water bottle. And then of course knowledge, you're learning, and I'm so grateful that we can learn here together. It's been a blessing to Kaylin and me too. All right. Now,
You had water purification on there?
what's that?
Yes, she did have that on water purification.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mention it though. Thank you. Water, some way to purify your water, and that's where the stainless steel water bottle comes in. You can boil water in that. There's all kind. You can use iodine, like Mom had. By the way, check your iodine spot. Has it faded significantly?
Is yours gone?
I can see it.
Huh?
Gone.
Gone? Yeah, y'all are all iodine deficient. You all need some iodine.
Is this, would you say gone?
It's not gone, but it's fading.
I knew it was
Yeah,
going to be like your
she has more. What's that?
I knew it was going to be like your parasite test.
It's not a parasite test. Okay, the other thing I was going to show you before we move on to this next thing is a good way to start fire. And that Kaylin showed you the flint and steel, but this is what's called a Ferro rod. And you can, these are fairly reasonable, but you can get a lot of sparks off of that.
What do you call that?
A Ferro rod. Ferro.
Burn the bag.
Burn the bank down. No. You can find these on Amazon, eBay, whatever. But I recommend getting a big one. Okay.
Is that a big one?
Yeah. I call this a Ferro sausage. It's a big one. Because it's, well, I guess I say that because my hands are not strong. And I have, I've had 5 hand surgeries. So it's easier for me to hold on to one that has a little size. Now, you remember I told you that I would mention the purpose of this on the back end of this knife without taking it from the sheath, and I can show you on my husband's. You can leave this in the sheath and strike it right with the end, or you can use the back of the knife. It has to have a 90-degree edge, and not all knives do. This green one here, you cannot do this unless you grind a 90-degree on the back of that knife because it has a rounded edge. You need a sharp edge. But these higher end Mora knives, they have the 90-degree, and this one, I love it. You don't even have to take it. You can, hand me that knife there. You can take it right in the sheath without removing it from the sheath and just use it as your striker right there. Your hand is protected. Just don't even have to remove it if you happen to lose your striker. Okay? All right. So you need to have a way to start fire because the matches are going to run out. Eventually this is going to run out. The most renewable method that I know of, besides 2 sticks, which takes a lot of practice and skill and time, is flint and steel, yes.
I learned in this town as a young boy you can use a magnifying glass as well.
Yes, magnifying glass will last a long time as long as you don't break it.
I had my magnifying glass on the dining room table.
Well, you can start fire with that.
And then, was it you or was it Scott? Anyway, he said, what smells? And
You were starting a fire.
yeah. If our
Kitchen table was starting to burn?
dining room table,
Wow.
and if it, we wouldn't have been home. Somebody, anyway, I don't know if it was you or Kaylin, or you or Scott.
I don't remember.
There's only 2 that keep coming home.
I was messed up to it, but I don't remember.
Okay, then I have to ask
Okay.
Scott. Might have been him.
Well, we need to get going here. I had no idea it was that late. This is the plant that's on the table. Now I've stripped the leaves off because I'm going to make salve out of it. This plant is a steroidal anti-inflammatory. So I'm going to make a steroidal anti-itch cream out of this plant. I harvested the roots because the roots are good to treat BPH, benign prostatic hypertrophy. Who knows what this plant is? I've got the Latin name up there. You can't answer. I know you know.
I think I heard someone say it. So.
Urtica dioica, I think is how they say it. This is stinging nettles. Now, I've not seen stinging nettles, but in two places here. I've seen it on Uncle Jakey's farm, and I've seen it on Levi's farm out there by Kelly Malk's place. So 2 places. If you do not have this growing on your place, I strongly recommend you get some seeds and grow it because it is fantastic. The entire plant is usable from the root to the tippy tip. The whole thing is medicinal, edible, and it's very practical and has uses that we'll talk about in just a second. It's very high in iron, calcium, magnesium, vitamin C, 5 times more vitamin C than an orange, high in chlorophyll, extremely high in protein. This is a foraged plant, a weed, okay? It aids in lowering blood glucose. I've already mentioned the BPH. It's very good. I used to take nettle tea, which actually tastes pretty good. I used to take that for my seasonal allergies, knocked them right out, and I believe largely it was because of the vitamin C content. It's an antibacterial, antioxidant. It helps to fight breast cancer, prostate cancer. Some people have done studies and suggested that it will also prevent someone who's bitten by a rabid animal from contracting rabies because it inhibits the growth of that bacteria in the body. So the entire plant is usable, okay? And if you want to grow some plants on your place, medicinal plants, and you are having trouble finding seeds, this is an excellent source. And I've had good germination, and they sent me some plants, and they all lived. Well, one of them didn't, but that was my fault. But they did pretty good. So if you don't have these plants, a lot of these grow here wild, but if you don't have them, you might want to consider a medicinal flower bed and grow these things. Yarrow, comfrey, calendula, echinacea angustifolia grows here on the prairie wild. Okay, Echinacea purpurea is what most people know as the purple cone flower, and that's pretty easy to grow. Nettles, and then cayenne. I believe everybody needs to have cayenne. And then last but not least is make a first aid kit and practice. Now, what are we going to do with this? Well, it's easier and I realize this is kind of dry. We were out at the farm yesterday and harvested these. It's better when it's really fresh. But 1 spoon per table, you guys, well, I have extras wherever there's more people that want to participate. You guys, anyway, you can pass it along. What we're going to do with the spoon, and I'll use my knife, I'll use my PTS knife. I'm going to show you how you can make rope out of this, and you can also make fire tinder. That's what this is. This is the outer fibrous coat of the stem of the nettle plant. It's very strong, and you can actually make a rope out of this that is very, very strong. I don't have time to teach you how to actually make rope today, but I want to show you how you can do this. Can I whack on your table a little?
Can you what?
Can I whack on your table if I'm real careful? Okay, what I do is I take the stem and I lay it down, and you can take the spoon and do this, and you just kind of give it a good whack. Okay, and then once you get it whacked like that, you can kind of open it up like this. I didn't whack the end good enough. Okay, this one's a little bit more
Take it
loose.
off in just one piece?
You try to get it in as long a piece as possible.
For a rope.
Okay. Yeah, and then when it's more moist, this comes off better. And you see how it comes off? And when you get to the places where there were stems or flowers going off, you have to kind of work it a little slower. It's more brittle now because it's dried, but normally this just peels right off. Now it's coming off in little pieces, but you see the point there, okay? And this, you just let this dry a little bit, and you can make a very strong rope. Or, huh?
You braid it, or you?
Well, there's a certain technique that you use. If we have time when we're in the park, I can show the technique a little bit of how to make the rope, and you can make small cords, and then you can weave those small cords together to make. I could tow in a car with rope made out of this stuff. It's that strong. So you see how you can just kind of peel it off like that?
So you really just want that outer layer,
The outer layer is what you want.
and it's not very thick.
No. Here, pass this around so everybody can see, okay? Okay. Yeah, see, he's doing it. Do you guys want to see? Okay, yeah, that'll work. Perfect. Okay, now it's going to be totally ruined. You might want to hang on to this one. You don't want them? Okay. We get to make char cloth.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you... Okay, does everybody kind of see how that works? And then what you can do too, here's a piece. Once you get that all off of there and it dries a little bit, you can take your hands and tear it and rough it up and make it very fine, and it'll catch a spark, you know, especially off of this thing. This throws a lot of sparks. But even with the flint and steel, you can throw a spark into nettle fibers that have been, you know, just roughed up and broken up into little bitty teeny weeny pieces, and it'll catch a spark and you can start a fire. Okay? Not only are these things practical, but they're fun to me. I just, this is so much fun.
I don't know nettles. I don't know the plant.
You don't know what?
The plant. I don't know if I would recognize it.
Well, this is a picture of it back here. That's a male flower, a male plant. The way you can tell it's a male plant is these are the flowers on it, and they're kind of spread out and loose, and they look like little flowers. He makes the pollen, and the female plant has seeds on it that are really tightly packed together at the tip of the plant. They're not spread out like that. This is the tops of it here, but it's all dried up. You can kind of see. And
Is that a male?
I don't have my glasses on. I think that one actually was a female, but the one I took the picture of, but see all the seeds, they're dried up and they've been moved around and stuff, so most of the seeds have fallen off. If you want to take these home and practice, feel free. But that's it. If there's any questions or whatever,